that's really important from a professionalization standpoint. Someone that you admire, respect, and does work in an area that you are very passionate about. Because this is why we're here, this is why we're together, this is why you're getting an advanced degree, a master's degree in social work, is you have a passion for caring and working with and empowering vulnerable populations. I want to start off by just giving you an overview of our community so that you understand what you all look like in terms of the field education office. Even though there are closer to 600 people enrolled in the MSW program at the University of South Carolina, there's only about 500 of you in a field practicum. That's a big number, isn't it? No, like, yes. So this is kind of where we are in the placement process. How many of you have gotten down the language of and have an understanding of foundation year, and then we have our second year, your advanced year. It could be your third year, but your advanced year of study is really about specializing. So this first year that second year part-timers are in, and those of you who are new and are doing full-time, you're in what's called foundation year social work. And this is where you're supposed to be learning generalist social work practices. Okay? So it's not just about working with individuals and families. It's also about learning to work with communities, organizations. It's about you learning generalist social work skills that you can use across systems. All right? We have, so far, around 213 of you that are going to be in a practicum placement. We should have, I guess, around 213 to 220 of you here today. That's a big number, isn't it? And then the rest are going to be those that are considered advanced year. We have over 340 MSW field instructors. That is a lot. You know, they are volunteers. They do not get paid. They have agreed to work with you all year long because they are invested in giving back. They really want to help budding social workers develop professionally. And so it's the time that they take to mentor you and to guide you. These are your field instructors. They are not paid. A lot of times students do not realize that, and I always like to point that out. Also, another misconception is that most of them are USC graduate. And even though a majority are, it's only 60%. How many of you in here have preceptors you're working with? Raise your hand. Do y'all know what a preceptor is? Mike's going to talk about this a little bit later when he talks about different roles. But a preceptor is like a task supervisor, somebody you might work with on a day-to-day basis. And then you have a field instructor that you're assigned that provides you guidance on actual MSW supervision, which Mike's going to talk a little bit more about that, but we have 84 volunteers for that role as well. We have over 225 field organizations, and the top areas seem to be around mental health, schools, and child welfare. And I also like to point out that we have a burgeoning VSW program. We have 50 students that are starting their senior year and will be in a field practicum experience, and then we have 75 who've declared a major in social work that are beginning their junior year. So this is a big and hefty program. We definitely have had experience for years and providing as optimum an opportunity we can in the field practicum experience. I do want to go ahead and say too, because some of you may have questions about this, but speak to it. With it being a foundation year placement, everyone in here should have been matched. And the reason that you're matched is because this year is not about specializing. It's about making sure you're in an organization and an opportunity for you to develop generalist competencies as a foundation year social worker. It is at the beginning of when you start to go for that second year that you get a list. You get to go seek out where you want to specialize, and you're seeking out a second year placement that will help you develop your niche, a specialized skill set, and maybe might even be a springboard for employment. And that being said, I haven't said much about me or my background, except that I did, after my undergraduate degree, I worked at a private nonprofit psychiatric rehabilitation center for 5 years, and then I decided, you know what, if I want to make change on a policy level, if I want to have opportunities for advancement, because I was working with individuals with severe and persistent mental illness, and I felt very frustrated by administrators because I felt like they just had negative attitudes about the clients that I worked with and tried to empower. You know, they're manipulative, they're this, they're that. And I just was really, I'm just not a fan of negative attitudes about that kind of stuff. So I finally realized, you know, what I need to do is I need to go back and I need to get a master's degree. And before I thought of the master in social work, I thought I wanted to be a clinical psychologist. Anybody in here major in psychology as an undergrad? Anybody else think they want to be a clinical psychologist? Maybe a few. But when I got out and actually worked, I realized that wasn't what I wanted to do. You know, a lot of times we have ideas about what we need, but we don't really know until we're in the trenches and we're doing the work what is really going to help us get there. So it took me a while to figure out, okay, what did I want to do and where did I want to go next? And that was the push that I needed. So I went back and I actually came here to the University of South Carolina. And because of my experience in working with individuals with severe and persistent mental illness, and specifically those with personality disorder diagnoses, I decided I wanted to specialize. Was there some kind of something out there that would help these clients better be able to advocate for themselves? I knew I wanted to go the communities, organizations, and policy route, but I felt like I needed a better hardcore clinical experience. So I actively talked with Jim Ward, who was the former field director. He's a giant and a legend here, and he's fabulous. And he was able to, you know, I was like, but they match you. They did then. And he let me go do an interview with Columbia Area Mental Health Center in their dialectical behavior therapy program. That turned into a job. I did private practice and became intensively trained dialectical behavior therapist for over 8 years. So see how I'm giving you this lecture for a reason, the connection. My second year I stayed on my track and went communities and organizations, and I obtained a placement at Protection and Advocacy for People with Disabilities. And that is communities, organizations, or what you may have heard as macro, and I got a job there as well when I graduated. Worked there for 12 years. Official title was Director of Quality Assurance and Training. I did everything from capacity building to program evaluation, anything that the executive director needed. So my introduction is to convey to you the importance and the opportunities that you may have available to you and how you may engage in your field practicum experience and how important that can be. Not from a networking perspective, but also fundamentally from a personal and professional growth perspective. And then I landed here, which, just so you know, I used to be, like Tom is here, we'll talk about him a little bit later, but I actually was a graduate assistant in the College of Social Work when I went through the master's program back in 1998. And guess where I spent one summer? In the field education office. See, so there are connections. This is the South Carolina. I'm pointing out the importance of these things to set up a framework for how you decide you want to approach and engage in the experiences you're going to have that are especially field and employment related as you begin your graduate level education. Or for those of you who have already been in it for a year. All right, let me do an introduction of our field office staff. You've heard enough about me, you're probably tired of hearing about it. I am going to let them tell you their story when they come up because you're going to see them throughout the next 2 days. But I do want to recognize them because we take a team approach at the field education office. You see the numbers of folks that we work with, the community partners we engage, and we're a small little contingency. There's only like 5 of us. And we're the ones that do all that work, and we do it together. And so I really want to give special recognition because I really do work with a great team. The first person I'd like to recognize is Jennifer Bonzio-McArdle. And most of you in here have probably talked to Jennifer on the phone. How many of you in here have talked to Jennifer on the phone? Raise your hand. See? Here we go. And she's going to be up in a little while to talk to you. The next I'd like to recognize is Michael Tone. And some of you may have talked to Michael as well. He comes with a wealth of, both of these individuals come with a wealth of experience that they can share with you. I'd like to recognize Janice. You probably saw Janice if you'll stand up so folks can see you. Janice is our master coordinator, organizer. She's probably helped some of you with background checks. How many of you in here have talked with Janice? I'm sure a couple of you have. So Janice is an important part of our team. And then Tom is one of our graduate assistantships. Like me, way back in 1998, when I spent a summer in the field education office, we tend to have about 4 or 5 students that help out with different things. And we couldn't do the work that we did without all that help. The person that is not here today that I do want to recognize is Nicole Kavanaugh. She's our BSW field education coordinator, and she's also clinical staff. She teaches, Mike teaches in the program, Jennifer teaches sometimes in the BSW program, and I actually teach the MSW program too. So you also see us in different roles. We also have what are called faculty field liaisons. How many of you are familiar with that, or just so I get an idea of where your knowledge is? Anybody understand field liaison? This is a good thing for us to take in because we really need to take our time on going over the different roles, because there's a difference between a field instructor and a field liaison. But all of our faculty serve in the role of field liaison. They basically monitor the integrity of the field practicum. And we have faculty that fill that role, and then we hire people. These are folks who are paid. They come out and they make sure you're getting what you need learning-wise in your field practicum. It's kind of like a quality assurance auditor is a way to think about it. And they'll meet with you once each semester, and Mike's going to tell you a little bit more about that. All right, let's talk about your packet. All of you have a packet. I always hate when I go to things and people give me stuff and they don't tell me what it is and how I'm going to use it and what it's for. So I wanted to make sure before we started moving into the content that we talk about your field packet and what it's for. How many of you in here have already been on the Blackboard? Raise your hand. How many of you in here have noticed that I've put forms on there? I think a few. A lot of what I've put on there is in this packet. Your field education manual is in here. Your timeline with important dates, which we're going to use this today and tomorrow as we go through and we train you on different things and items that we would like to cover. So you need to make sure that not only do you hold on to this today, but you need to bring it back back tomorrow with you, or you'll be lost tomorrow, because we're using some of the handouts for this. I don't have any handouts for the stages of student development so much as I want us to have a conversation about it. And I've got references if you want to look more about it. Let me ask you this. How many of you in here are nervous about field? Okay, a couple of you. I'm not going to stand behind the podium. That's totally not my style. So how many of you in here said that you're nervous about field? Kind of. I remember, you know how I said I wanted to do the DBT and that was my first year placement? I remember being physically ill before the first time I led a professional group. Like, I was so nervous and scared about my competency. You know, was I going to perform well? Was I going to do it right? Was my field instructor going to be happy? You know, someone has an emergency. They're trying to open the basement doors. So there are these, I guess what I'll point out, there's actually a lot of different people who have theoretical models for what developmental stages you might be going through. This is just one of them that I've picked out. And I share this with our field instructors because I actually train the field instructors on the same thing, so they know that when you're coming in, you're feeling a lot of these things. You're feeling, in the very beginning, you're feeling a little bit dependent. You want some more structure. You need some concrete tasks to do and get under your wing. The main thing is this number one, anxious. A lot of us don't like to admit it. We don't want to admit to some of the fear feelings we may have or anxiety we might experience, but it's totally normal for you to be in a place of uncertainty. I mean, it's never comfortable to be in anticipation, right? What it's going to be like, what you're going to be doing, are you going to enjoy the people you're around, you know, are people going to judge you, all that kind of stuff. It's totally normal for you to have these feelings, okay? This is really helpful because it talks about how this is kind of how you're supposed to be where you are. You know, you're focusing on yourself, your abilities, are you able to do stuff or you're not? And then you start to gradually increase and become empowered over time. That's the way I like to describe it. You know, so really this first quarter is all about you getting oriented, soaking things up, kind of contending with some of these emotional experiences you may have around feeling capable and able to do things that please your field of instructor, that please you as an individual person. And hopefully by the end of the year, you'll get further along in having a greater understanding. You'll start to maybe enjoy some discussions a little bit more instead of feeling, the deer caught in headlights kind of thing, what to expect, what am I going to do. To increased understanding. I find by the second year, like I was already talking to Thomas and some other people, I've been getting emails from students who are starting their second year, and they're already, because they started block week last week, and they're like, I love it, I'm doing so great. They're allowing me some, freedom to do things and try things on my own. So by your second year, there's this less decrease in give me tasks, give me structure, I want to do concrete stuff, so much as to let me fly, let me try things, let me do some things more independently. And you have a greater awareness that things aren't black and white. I think when you come into the program, you have an idea of how things are supposed to be and what you expect from this person and how it should go. And you start, I call it flexibility. I think you become more flexible and realistic to the realities of practice. Most of you in here have probably worked. Nothing is ever that simple, right? You gotta learn, that's a skill. Learning how to be flexible is a skill, definitely. But you only can become more flexible as you feel more confident, right? And you feel like you have more knowledge under your belt. So this will start to increase as you move into your second year. If you feel like you're not moving along this trajectory, like if you're sitting in here feeling a little overconfident, I would be worried about you. Okay? You really should be following along the path of this as you think about your foundation year and your advanced year. And that came from Deal 2002. I can send that, I'll upload the PowerPoint to Blackboard, but you're going to get a training this afternoon about that from Mike. Here are some just general strategies to open up and cope, because you are, going to be anxious. It's going to be hard to sometimes know how to ask for what you want, which we're going to do some exercises around that tomorrow. But here's just some general things is, try to be as realistic and grounded as possible. You want to always seek clarification is my favorite basic social work skill, which you haven't learned all these things because you haven't had some of the classes yet, but some of these are just basic social work skills. If something is going on at your placement, you want to seek clarification, you want to make an informed commitment. We're going to be going over all of these bullets. You don't have to memorize these, and I'm not going to go over them in detail, because this is what we're doing this entire training. We're teaching you the skills about how to do these. And especially this morning, or maybe it's this afternoon, I'm going to be going over in more detail about emotional well-being, and about how you might need to regulate emotions and kind of how that happens and what that might look like. Because if you don't know an emotional experience, you don't know how to identify and acknowledge and clarify feelings, do you? That's a hard thing. A lot of us know when we're happy or sad, but it's hard for us sometimes to identify those other experiences. We just know we feel yucky, or we just know that something doesn't feel right. So kind of giving you a little bit of skill set in that area, I think might help you better be able to navigate field your first semester. We're going to do some things around self-care that'll help you identify supports, how you take care of yourself, so we can make sure that we start to build your toolbox. Do y'all remember that when Dean Cheyette, those of you that are second-year part-timers weren't here, but I don't know if she gave this in her speech last year, but on Monday, she talked about how the whole point of this orientation is to help starting to give you some basic tools to fill your tool chest. That's what we're hoping to do with y'all here today and tomorrow, is by going over some of these things, giving you some enhanced, maybe more specialized tools for field to kind of help you maneuver not only the skill acquisition part, but the work environment, working with other people. Sometimes those things come easier to others than not. So kind of reviewing some of those things will be really important. How many of you in here, it is easy to tell people when you're not getting something you need? Raise your hand. It's easy for these are folks where it's easy for you to do that. Do you see how many people did not raise their hand? This is where we start to get concerned in field education. Because if you're just going along and you're thinking, I just want to get through this, this concerns me, because that means, to me, it means you're probably not getting the quality education that I would hope that you're getting and receiving. And you've got to learn how to advocate for yourself, because if you don't know how to advocate for yourself, then what do you think I'm thinking? Someone. Shout it out.
You can't advocate for someone else.
That's right. So that becomes something that we're going to want to put in the learning contract, and Mike's going to talk about that later. It's okay to acknowledge where our weaknesses are. I mean, I was terrified of doing a group. I had to trust and tell my field instructor, this really totally scares me. But I need to confront this. So, trust becomes really important with that field instructor too, because you got to tell them your vulnerabilities. Oh my goodness. So they can help you work through some of this stuff. Anyway, so there are some strategies to cope. I am now get to turn it over to Jennifer, who is going to talk to you all for the next half an hour about some of these things. And that's it. I get to take a rest. You don't have to hear me for a while. Let's welcome Jennifer up here. Bear with me, guys. All right, good morning, everybody. This is my favorite time of year because I get to put faces to names. I have emailed many of you and been on the phone with many of you. So it's great for me to have an opportunity to have you guys all here in one room and to be able to talk to you guys. Believe it or not, our team places 500 students in the field every year. So it's a long process, but we do it together. So I'm sure that you guys have gotten a lot of emails and quick emails and quick phone calls from me. So I appreciate you guys getting back and following up with me along the way. I guess I'll tell you guys a little bit about myself. I actually survived a full-time program here. I'm living proof you can do it. I got my bachelor's degree in psychology, and then I decided I was going to work for 4 years. I worked as a case manager for adults with developmental disabilities. And my first job, post-undergraduate, because I didn't know any better, was residential treatment for dually diagnosed adults. So they were coming out of a higher level of care, and we were trying to transition them into a supported department program. I came out from my psychology degree and was like, took out normal psych, I'm good. I can do this, I'm going to change the world, make a difference. In my first week at the job, I went home and told my father I should have gone into accounting. So then I decided after 4 years that I needed a master's degree to be able to go further in my career and to get into the positions that I wanted. So I came down here to South Carolina, and then I ended up being a graduate assistant in the field education office. It's where I did 2 years of my graduate assistantship with the previous field director, Mr. Joe Ward, and then this turned into a job. So the irony is you never know where life's going to take you. I'm originally from Connecticut, as I'm sure many of you can pick up from my accent. And I had plans to return to New England post-degree. Wanted to go back into substance abuse. And then just kind of ended up really liking education and field education, and I've been here ever since. I know Melissa kind of talked a little bit about having anxiety about getting started in field, and I'm sure that there's some of you here who are going into a setting where you're going to be working with a population that's new to you. And I just want to really let you guys know that that's totally normal. My background was all with adults. So when I came into the program, the field director matched me up with a program for children with developmental disabilities. I was terrified. Terrified. It's like, I've never worked with kids before. Oh my God. I went in for my first week and I had to do a group. We did a social skills group for latency age boys. And I was like, okay, I can do this, and I'm talking myself through it. I'm like, we're going to get through this. And I thought I'd empower them and let them come up with the group rules on our first
session. Oh, how'd that go? Let's see. Rule number 1, Jen the intern sucks. Rule number 2, we don't have to listen to Jen the intern. So needless to say, after my first group, I was in my field instructor's office wiping the tears. Like, I just don't know if I can work with kids. So I just want all of you guys to know that I've gone through it, Mike's gone through it, Melissa's gone through it. So even if you've been practicing in a human service organization, even if you've been with the Department of Social Services for 20 years, you guys are all going into a setting that may be new to you, into a population that may be new to you. So I just want you guys to know it's okay to have that anxiety, have a couple tears, find the bathroom on the first day. You do that little, how many of you guys see the pep talk in the mirror? You can do this, right? That's okay. I'm not going to talk too long because we have a great presenter coming up at 10. But basically what I wanted to talk to you guys about is some basic stuff about professional presentation. And the reason that we focus on this is because we understand that some of you guys coming into our program are coming straight from undergrad. And you guys may not have been into the professional workforce yet. Some of you guys sitting in here have been in the professional workforce 20, 30 years. So I'm going to try and talk in the middle. So if you guys just bear with me and give me a little bit of grace, we'll kind of have this dialogue. But this is one of the things that our field community presents to us the most, is really concerns about professional presentation and what that means to them. So we really wanted to make sure that we had a dialogue with you guys about what that means. Now, every organization, how many of you guys know what I mean when I say work culture? You guys know what I mean when I say work culture? Okay. So every organization has its own work culture. So, for example, the university has like casual Fridays, But what does casual Friday mean? Does that mean I can come in with cargo shorts and like a tank top? No. Casual Friday here means khakis, ironed, nice dress pants, not, the Abercrombie pants that are all distressed with the holes in them and, you're missing part of your leg here. It means very formal jeans and a nice top. So when we say work culture, it's really important for you guys, especially when you guys get started next week for block week, to understand what they mean. So if they say to you, oh, you're here on Thursdays? Great, it's casual Thursday. You might want to ask what casual Thursday means. So when they say to you, we do business casual. Okay, well there's lots of different ways to interpret business casual. Who wants to shout out an example? What do you think business casual means? Anybody?
Chinos and a polo.
Chinos and a polo, okay? Anybody else? Khaki pants?
Button-down shirt, no tie.
Button-down shirt, no tie, okay? Now some organizations, that may be their exact definition. Other places may say, well, we really mean dress suits, pantyhose, leather shoes, just means you get to wear a lighter top, maybe. So it's really important that you guys have these dialogues. We always encourage you guys to dress overdressed than underdressed. Have you guys ever heard that? It's better to be overdressed than underdressed. How many of you guys have picked out your outfit already for your first day in field? How many people are thinking about it? Okay. Here's my suggestion and my recommendation, guys. Even though you guys have already talked to your field instructors, you guys have already done an interview, your first day is your first impression, not only with your individual field instructor, but with everyone in that organization. And first impressions last all year. Okay? Forever. So I really encourage you guys to really focus on what your presentation is going to look like on your first day and your first week. And if you don't know, guys, ask. Email them, call them, say, hey, I'm starting on Monday, just wanted to ask you, where do I park, these kind of things, what do I need to wear? Some of the feedback that we consistently get from our field community is concerns about basic professional presentation. How many of you guys have ring-back tones at home? I give you credit for raising your hand. I know there's more in this room. I give you credit for the authenticity and honesty. We get a lot of emails and calls. We've actually have students who have not secured an internship or weren't even granted an opportunity to interview. A lot of you guys aren't aware, But when we get engaged with you in the field placement process, if we think you may be a good match for an organization, I may go ahead and email them your resume. And they may go ahead and contact you. Or, believe it or not, a lot of our field instructors will look you up on Facebook. Okay? And so I've actually had field instructors say to me, no thank you. I don't want to interview that student. Okay? I actually had a field instructor 2 years ago call me, and I knew her pretty well, we had a good rapport. And she said, Jennifer, have you seen this Facebook page? I said, no, there's 500 of them. I'll be on Facebook all day. She said, I'm not going to interview this student, and I think you should check out the Facebook to see why. How many of you guys know what 5 points is? Okay, it's where the undergrads like to hang out here at USC. Bar after bar after bar. So needless to say, it was a Saturday night, 5 points, walk of shame picture. And that was their profile picture to the public, okay? So this is what I'm talking about with professional presentation, guys. If your field instructor calls you and you guys have AC/DC as your ringback tone, what kind of tone does that set with them, right? They're gonna look you up on Facebook. Do you guys want that picture to be your best foot forward, right? Okay. How many of you guys do the majority of your emails through your smartphones and your personal email? Okay. I can't tell you how many calls we get about email addresses. If your email address is partygirl22@yahoo.com, I'm not kidding. I don't make this stuff up. Okay? Sassy girl, big mama. Yeah. So here's my recommendation, guys, and I'm sure you guys heard this yesterday. Use your student email. Okay? It's pretty simple. Mine's, bossio@mailbox.sc.edu. Jenna or Brown or Sam. You guys can figure out how to get your campus email forwarded to your personal email account. But if you guys are sitting here going, I don't know about my personal email account, open a new one today. Go home, do it. It's free. Yahoo, Gmail. Okay? I'm going to talk a little bit about professional attire, because believe it or not, we actually get calls during block week every year about this. About 3 years ago, block week, we had a triple-digit heat here in South Carolina. How many of you guys remember that summer we had? Yeah, that was not fun. It's about 115 degrees. The heat index was about 118. So we had a student who was doing their field placement at the Department of Juvenile Justice, which is a lockdown facility for juveniles in the system. And that student showed up with shorter shorts. They're not Daisy Dukes. They were well on their way. And a tank top that had a pretty good amount of cleavage showing. The student was a little heavy set. Do you think that was appropriate for adolescent juveniles incarcerated? Did she get sent home? Yeah. Yes. And Dr. Reitmeyer was just saying that when she was a field instructor for students of protection and advocacy, she sent people home. Okay? So not only do you guys need to focus on your attire in terms of professionalism, I always say go with safe colors. If you go to any of the Fortune 500 companies and all those things and all the websites, how to get a job, how to dress professional, they always say black, blue, gray, white, very basic colors. You're going to wear a skirt, nothing too much higher than your knee. Any tops that you have should obviously cover what you have. Nobody's saying for our guys in here, you guys got to wear a suit. Nobody's saying you got to wear a suit and tie. Khaki's a nice button-up shirt. Obviously some organizations are going to be a little bit more laid back. How many of you guys in here have piercings and tattoos? Okay. Some organizations are okay with that. They'll say to you, it's fine. If you have a tattoo or a piercing. Some organizations will say, you're going to have to cover it up. Or, you can take your tongue ring out while you're in the field, put a little spacer plastic bar in, okay? These are questions you want to have during block week. But also, it's really important, guys, to focus on what you wear to field. Why else? Not because of how people will view you and how you'll be perceived, but because of safety. Thank you. Safety. Now, let's say, how many of you guys are placed in a residential treatment facility? Ryan Psychiatric, Three Rivers, in a hospital. That's a good chunk of hands. Okay. So let's say you're on a unit and you have an incident happen with one of the clients. And you have shoes on like I do today. Am I going to run far in these? No. I'm not going to run very far in these at all. What if I had, the new thing is these, what do they call them? The infinity scarves, the ones you wrap around yourself like 85 times? I love them, by the way. But what's going to happen to me if I've got my infinity scarf wrapped around myself 85 times? Right? Or if I have my hair down, right? You've got really, really long hair. What could somebody do? Grab your hair and pull you down to the floor, okay? So a lot of you guys in your field placements, even though you're physically housed in an organization, you guys are going to be going out in the community. You're going to be getting in and out of the car, you're going to be going to clients' houses, things like that. If you're going to a client's house, you want to be comfortable, right? But you also want to be able to maneuver your environment if needed. Meaning, I'm not saying wear like running pants and sneakers. That doesn't set a good tone. Here to meet with you today, but I'm ready to run. But be really cognizant and mindful, guys, what you wear in the field. One of the greatest pieces of advice that somebody ever gave me, I'm sure some of you in this room have heard it, Dr. Reitmeyer likes to say it all the time too. Professional presentation isn't always about where you are right now. Sometimes it's about where you want to be, right? How many of you guys have ever heard, don't dress for the job you have, dress for the job you want?